Welcome to our video tutorial on segment and angle addition postulates. Before we proceed, maybe you want to hit pause to copy this problem down, and then follow along. When we're approaching this kind of problem, the first thing we're going to do is label the figure with what we know. So AVB is 5x plus y plus 2. BVC is x minus 12y minus 9. Try to write as organized and as neatly as possible. DVE is 8x minus 2y minus 50. And FVA is 24x plus 5y plus 5. But that's not all. We have this box on the picture, and that box means that we have a right angle whose measure is 90 degrees. Additionally, we're told that 3 points are collinear. On the picture, it's wise to highlight that, or at least shade it in, to remind yourself that you have a straight line. Please do not make assumptions. Unless the problem says you have a straight line, do not assume. There's one other piece of information provided to us, and that is that ray VD bisects angle CVE. So this ray VD bisects this whole angle, meaning that the two parts I just colored in magenta are congruent. Since we did not have an angle expression for CVD, and since it's the same as DVE, we can really just copy-paste the 8x minus 2y minus 50. So now we need a couple equations. We need two equations in order to be able to solve for x and y. One of our equations can come from up top, because those two angles fused together have to add up to 180 degrees. Please write it in geometry form first. So, to be consistent with this problem, we will say the measure of angle FVA plus the measure of angle AVB is equal to 180 degrees. Please remember we need to see that geometry first. Then plug in the algebra. So 24x plus 5y plus 5. And then remember, I like to use parentheses. It helps me combine like terms and helps me remain organized in the problem. Plus 5x plus y plus 2 equals 180. When combining like terms, do something to keep track of what you have already combined. So we have 29x. Notice I'll use like a different symbol to keep track of the y's. It just seems y's. Plus 6y. And then we've got plus 7 equals 180. So when we get the 7 on the other side, 29x plus 6y is equal to 173. That's our first equation. We need two equations in order to solve the system and get the values of the variables. The other equation can come below our straight line. And as a matter of fact, since the left-hand side is 90, the right-hand side would also have to be 90. So we could say the measure of angle BVC, watch the notation by the way on that, plus the measure, make sure you put the M, of angle CVD, plus the measure of angle DVE is equal to 90. Plug in the algebra. Make sure you don't make a typo. And now combining like terms. The other way that I said is maybe color code things. So x, that'll be 9x, and that'll be 17x. For the y's, we've got a negative 12, negative 14, negative 16. Oops, I went too fast putting a plus sign there. It's going to be a minus 16y. And then for our numbers, just kind of keep organized. Negative 59, negative 109. We need to get those numbers on the other side, so we have 17x minus 16y equals 199. That's our second equation. Now remember I said look for simplifying them? Is there a whole number that we can divide both sides of either of those equations by? In this case, not so much. So now what we're going to do is we're going to scroll down and make our system of equations. So here we go. The top one is 29x plus 6y equals 173. And the bottom one comes from the red, 17x minus 16y equals 199. It doesn't matter which order you put those in the system of equations. But now, when looking at this, I believe the easier variable to eliminate is the y. One of them's positive already, and one of them is negative already. So if you're ever confused about what to multiply by, you could always just switch it. I could put the 16 up top and the 6 on the bottom. However, there might be a smaller set of numbers at work. So I think if we put an 8 up top, we would get 48. And if we put a 3 on the bottom, we would get negative 48. The way you can kind of think about that is simplifying it as if it were a fraction. 6 over 16 would turn into 3 over 8, and then you would interchange them. The 3 would go down, and the 8 would come up. Now multiply everything in that first equation by 8, and make sure you multiply everything by 8. And then write them out separately below. So I get 232x plus 48y, and then 173 times 8 is 1384. Yes, the numbers might get large, they might get annoying, but we'll just deal with them. In the bottom, 17 times 3 is 51, so we'll have 51x minus the 48y. Don't forget to take the 3 over to the 199, and 199 times 3 gives us 597. Now we just simply add those two equations together. Notice the y's cancel. That was the point of eliminating them. So 232x plus 51x is going to be 283x is equal to, and on the right hand side 1384 plus 597 gives us 1981. Now as we continue, we will need to divide both sides by the 283 to get x by itself. And x might work out to be a decimal. If it does, show me at least 2 decimal places correctly rounded. If the decimal stops, please show me all of its decimal spots. Here actually though, we could just get that x is equal to 7. That's kind of nice. Okay, now we plug back to find y, and we can plug into either equation. I'm going to pick the one that avoids negatives. So then we can plug in and get 29 times 7 plus 6y equals 173. 29 times 7 is 203. We would subtract that 203 from both sides. That's going to be a negative 30. So then we get y is equal to a negative 5. Please make sure to go back and answer whatever question was asked. So at the top of the page we see that we had x is 7, y is negative 5, and we still need to solve for the measure of angle CVD. Now we do have an expression for CVD. It's 8x minus 2y minus 50. On a quiz or a test, please show me that plug-in. So measure of angle CVD was equal to 8x minus 2y minus 50. We plug in our x, which is 7. We plug in our y, which is a negative 5. Use your calculator or do some mental math here. So this is 56 plus 10 minus 50. So it looks like that's going to be 66 minus 50, which is 16. Show me at least the plug-in. So I need to see this step that I've highlighted and this answer right here at a minimum. And then when you come back up to the top of the page, please make sure that you indicate that CVD is 16 degrees. These problems entail quite a bit, so stay organized, be patient, and do your best to avoid some silly mistakes. Of course, it's the big process that matters ultimately, so make sure to show your geometry before plugging in your algebra, and hopefully these problems work out relatively well for you. Thanks for watching this tutorial on segment and angle addition postulates.